Shalom Aleichem. Good day. Today we'll be dealing with the subject of the grace of Elohim. In the Christian church it is taught that grace means unmerited favor, with the suggestion that unmerited favor means a system of allowance. The Elohim saves us through a vicarious sacrifice, imputes to us righteousness without any merit, that is, obedience to his word. This is what is suggested. But in this short study, we will find that this suggestion that has led people from the pursuit of holiness and perfection is error. In Titus chapter 2, verse 11, it gives a great definitive of what the grace of Elohim is. It says in Titus 2, verse 11, the grace of Elohim that bringeth salvation. Note that. The grace of Elohim that bringeth salvation, that is a rescue from sin, has appeared to all men, men of all nations, teaching us that denying ungodliness or unel-likeness and worldly lust, we should live soberly, righteous, and el-like in this present world. That is, el-like is to live according and in the character of the divine. It continues to say, looking for the blessed hope, tikwa, expectation, and the glorious appearing of the great Elohim and our Savior, Yeshua HaMashiach, who gave himself for us, that he might redeem us. Redeem means to restore. Restore from what? To restore from a condition of sin to a state of righteousness and el-likeness. From all iniquity. Iniquity can be translated lawlessness. And purify unto himself a peculiar people, zealous of good works. Now here we see that this is what grace accomplishes in our life. A denying of all unel-likeness, worldly lust, that we should live soberly, somberly, that means in a right mind, in a mind of sanity, righteously. Righteously related to the Torah means according to the standard of the divine law, and el-like, meaning within the character of the fruits of the Spirit that is derived from the divine nature, and that we should be in constant hope of the glorious appearing of the great Elohim and our Savior, who shall do what? Grace does what? It redeems us. The grace of Yeshua redeems us from all lawlessness, means actions that is against the law of Elohim, the commandments of his law, and purify. Purify from what? Sin, lawlessness, unel-likeness, unto himself a peculiar people, zealous of good works, that is, works that derive from the good of the divine nature. Now, many will retort and go to Ephesians 2:8. In Ephesians 2:8, we are going to see, by breaking it down in accordance with the Word and not with human tradition or secular ideals, that has produced a doctrine of allowance, whereas the doctrine of Yeshua was a doctrine that taught self-denial, that is, the putting to death of sin. But here in Ephesians 2:8 through 10, let us break it down quickly. It says, for by grace we are saved, rescued from sin, through faith, and that not of ourselves, not from the ability of the flesh. It is the gift of Elohim, not of works, lest any man should work. See, that's where we get stuck at. Because when they define works in the Goyim system of religion, they're saying not by one's merit of righteousness. No man has a merit of righteousness in the flesh, but we do have a merit of righteousness that is from the Spirit when we live in obedience to his commandments. For Paul says in Romans 8:4 that we were called to fulfill the righteousness of the Torah, to fulfill it. To fulfill it. That means to actualize it. But this here, what Paul was talking about, was the works, the ritual works of the Torah, the halakha, sacrifices and offerings and circumcision and the washing of hands and these type of superficial rituals and traditions that related to the flesh, though within them there was divine and spiritual wisdom. Man began to believe that these works, these ritual works, had efficacy in saving and transforming one's heart before Elohim. It does not. And this is what the works that Paul was speaking of. He was speaking of works in relation to the ritual works of the Torah, as he taught in the book of Hebrews, that sacrifices of offerings and bulls I do not desire. This is what Yahweh prophesied concerning and revealing that Yahweh was not satisfied with the offerings of bulls and sheep and goats, of circumcision of the loins, washing of hands. These things were insignificant. They were only shadows of what was to come, or shadows of wisdom and knowledge relating to the purification of the heart of man, which is imprisoned in evil. He goes on to say, for we are his workmanship. That means he's working in us, created in Yeshua HaMashiach unto what? Good works. Now let's qualify the word, the expression good works. See, when the rich young ruler came to Yeshua, he said, good master. And Yeshua said, none is good but Elohim. So Yeshua spoke of good only in context to the Elohim, that all good, genuine good, comes from Elohim. Therefore, good works are those works that derive and are created in us, those desires of good created in us, which we express for the redemption of others or for our own edification and redemption in Yahuwah. Good works, loving your neighbor, caring about those who are weak, carrying the burdens of the weak. These are good works. Kindness, love, mercy, forgiving. These are good works that Yeshua has created us into by the work of his Spirit, which Elohim has ordained that we should walk in them. So you see, the grace that saves us, which is defined in Titus 2:11, is a grace that is actively working to empower us to overcome sins. This is why it says in Matthew, for this purpose was the son of Matthew, that you shall call his name Yeshua, for he shall save his people from their sins. And this is the purpose in which Yeshua came, to save his people from sin. And this is the purpose that he poured out grace, to empower man to overcome sin, to fulfill the will of the Father. And the will of the Father is drawn out clearly in 1 John 5:2 and 3, where it says quickly, but this we know, that we love the children of Elohim, when we love Elohim and keep his commandments. See, you're loving your neighbor when you're keeping the commandments of Elohim. For if you're not stealing from someone, what are you doing? You're giving to him. You're bestowing good upon him for his redemption. For this is the love of Elohim, the will of Elohim, that we keep his commandments, and his commandments are not grievous. No, keeping the commandments does not negate grace. It empowers the grace within you, the power to deny ungodliness and worldly lust, the power to live righteous, soberly, and like in this world, to produce the fruits of the Spirit unto salvation and redemption. Let us not be fooled any longer, and let us reach out for the grace that bringeth salvation in Yeshua HaMashiach. Shalom Aleichem.